Okay. And welcome back, and thanks very much for joining this episode where we're going to be discussing Steve Jobs and his impact on the tech industry and really thinking about that in the perspective of what he brought from a customer-centered growth strategy. So let me just minimize myself so you can see what we're going to go through. So first, before we get started, I just want to cover off this video, and it's an interesting video and really kind of depicts the philosophy and vision that Steve Jobs really had.
Yes.
Mr. Jobs, you're a bright and influential man.
Here it comes.
It's sad and clear that on several counts you've discussed, you don't know what you're talking about. I would like, for example, for you to express in clear terms how, say, Java, in any of its incarnations, addresses the ideas embodied in OpenDoc. And when you're finished with that, perhaps you could tell us what you personally have been doing for the last 7 years.
You know, you can please some of the people some of the time, but one of the hardest things when you're trying to affect change is that people like this gentleman are right in some areas. I'm sure that there are some things OpenDoc does, probably even more that I'm not familiar with, that nothing else out there does. And I'm sure that you can make some demos, maybe a small commercial app that demonstrates those things. The hardest thing is, how does that fit in to a cohesive, larger vision that's going to allow you to sell $8 billion, $10 billion of product a year? And one of the things I've always found is that you've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology. You can't start with the technology and try to figure out where you're going to try to sell it. And I've made this mistake probably more than anybody else in this room. And I've got the scar tissue to prove it. And I know that it's the case. And as we have tried to come up with a strategy and a vision for Apple, it started with what incredible benefits can we give to the customer? Where can we take the customer? Not starting with, let's sit down with the engineers and figure out what awesome technology we have, and then how are we going to market that? And I think that's the right path to take.
And it certainly was the right path. Apple, under Steve Jobs' leadership, became the first $1 trillion company that the world's ever seen. And really at the heart of it was that vision about where does Apple want to take the customer. And that philosophy, that vision has permeated wave after wave of technology CEOs that we're going to be talking about in a moment. But I remember this, and it had a massive impact on me at the end of the 90s, really listening to that. I was in the technology space at that time. It had a massive impact on me. And I knew that the guys at Nokia, really, really clever, very, very clever engineers. But they were focusing on developing their smartphone platform, which is MeeGo. They also had another one, based on the capabilities, based on the technology. And the customer was not part of that conversation. And that was really why Apple came through and really engendered this new era of technology, customer-centered, customer-led technology. And it didn't just have a profound impact on me.
Yes.
Scott Cook, co-founder of Intuit, his statement is, test concepts with target users first. Validated experiments beat opinions. Paul Maritz, the VMware CEO, immerse yourself in customer needs, but don't just react to them. Safra Catz, the CEO of Oracle, test concepts quickly with real user feedback. Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, immerse in the customer journey. Their needs should shape your product roadmap. Steve Ballmer, the Microsoft CEO, innovation is not just about great ideas, but knowing what the market wants. Jeff Bezos, Amazon's CEO, of course, previous leader of AWS. We see our customers as invited guests to a party, and we are the hosts. It's our job every day to make every important aspect of the customer experience a little bit better. Satya Nadella, the Microsoft CEO, we have to recreate everything we do to keep us customer-centric. Just think about that. We have to recreate everything we do to keep us customer-centric. It doesn't matter how much money we made yesterday. Larry Page, Google co-founder, we really try to focus on the end user. How can we do a better job for them? And I think that focus has served us very well. We try to avoid distractions and really focus on doing the best thing we can for users. And the truth is that over 90% of global Tech 100 CEOs focus on the customer experience. That is their stated focus, their stated strategy, not just Apple and what Steve Jobs left as a legacy, but at AWS, at Oracle, at Microsoft, at Adobe, at Salesforce, at the biggest and best technology companies. And they didn't get there and then they became customer centric. They became exceptional technology companies because they focus on the customer experience and putting the customer at the heart of their journeys and ensuring that they're driving from those needs rather than from the technology, from the capabilities, as we heard very well, all of those things that are just going to slow a company down, as we just heard from Steve Jobs. And I just want to come back to the impact on me after hearing that video, shortly after actually, in 2002, I joined this company here. Some of you will know it. It's a company from the UK. It's a mobile network operator that doesn't exist anymore in the same brand name. It was called BT Cellnet. And BT Cellnet was a large mobile operator, but it was fourth in the market. It was last in the market. And essentially, its legacy, very, very clever product engineers. It was very much product innovation focus. A lot of the first innovations in terms of mobile came out of BT Cellnet. Some of you will remember in the UK, Surf the Net, Surf the BT Cellnet. So, but very much focused on product capabilities, technology, but the customer voice was absent. And I joined in 2002, just as it was rebranded to O2, and it was a distant last mobile network in the UK against every single measure. So whether that's average revenue per user, number of customers, the operating income, margin, network quality score, customer churn, brand consideration, it was last. And the media had really written us off. We were called worthless, a prime takeover target. And I remember leaving my previous technology company to join O2, and the leadership there at my previous company thought I was absolutely crazy to join this mobile operator, which was really, really struggling. And they thought that I would be doing a U-turn and coming back to them after a few months of all the losses. And I remember joining that company, and I've never been in a situation probably like that where I've actually been really scared going into a company, just seeing a sea of red in terms of the numbers, the metrics, the dashboards, missing every single target, and just a sea of red. But what we did do is 5 years later, we became clear number one, and not just number one by a tiny bit, number one by a large margin. So number one in average revenue per user, number one in number of customers, number one in operating income, number one in margin, number one in network quality score, number one in customer churn, number one in brand consideration, from last to clear outstanding market leader. And we also had twice the market growth rate and the highest profit margins in the industry. So our gross service revenue was the highest. Our EBITDA margin was the highest. So it wasn't that though we were growing rapidly on customers and sacrificing margin. No, we were actually doing both simultaneously, growing revenue, growing customer base, growing profits. And we, in that period, in fact, only in 3 years, from 2005 to 2008, we doubled the number of customers, doubled the revenue, doubled the free cash flow, and quadrupled the share price just in 3 years. So this is what can happen when you have a complete understanding of why customers do what they do. And that's really the focus that we had as a new team in O2, to really recenter and really focus on those things that we heard in the Steve Jobs video about focusing on the customer and putting the customer at the heart. And the thing is that most tech companies rely only on data analytics to understand their customers. But the problem is that data analytics just shows what customers do. It doesn't show why they do it. So without knowing the why, you can't create differentiated strategies that foster the kind of customer loyalty and growth rates that we're talking about. So understanding what the market wants, what's the benefit of that? Well, number one, it ensures product market fit. You can validate that your product solves real needs for a defined target customer segment, and this dramatically increases the odds of uptake and usage. It also informs positioning and messaging. Knowing your customers allows you to craft messaging and value propositions that resonate with what matters most to them. It also guides effective marketing. Customer insights enable you to choose marketing channels, messages, and content that will actually reach and persuade your targets to buy. And it focuses product development. Features and capabilities can be prioritized based on what will deliver the most value to customers rather than somebody's guesses, hunches, or opinions. And it also allows accurate projections. Comprehensive customer knowledge enables modelling of acquisition costs, conversion rates, churn, upsell potential, and a whole lot more. And then lastly, it de-risks execution. So a lack of target customer understanding is a huge launch risk, and thorough insights dramatically increase the chance of product launch success. So really, the key thing is, if you've been struggling to scale growth in your technology company, it's probably because you need to achieve mastery of your target market and customers. Similar to the CEO of Apple, Steve Jobs, and all of those other CEOs that we've just run through, that's what they focus on and get their teams to be focused on. And that's really been the focus of the last 20 years in technology, that putting the customer experience at the heart of things in a hyper-competitive marketplace is not just a nice thing to do. It's paramount for success. You might get some short-term bursts, an innovation wave that succeeds, and you get a bit of a riding the wave, but the more customer-driven companies will come in, take that market, and then they'll just do a better job in terms of the customer experience. So really, your greatest asset is knowing more about your customer than they do. And that's the difference between insights and observations. Don't want to just have observations about a customer. This is about having those penetrating, profound insights to know more about them, to actually second guess what they're going to do next. Those are the kind of insights we're talking about. This is not about asking a customer, do you like this color or this color? It's understanding the insights as to how those things shape their lives, and then you can predict what choice they're going to make because you know the underlying behaviour of the customer. So, as Steve Jobs said, you've got to start with a customer experience and work back towards a technology, not the other way round. You can't just ask customers what they want and try to give it to them. By the time you get it built, they'll want something new. You've got to understand your customers more than they understand themselves. So that's a profound statement, and this is the basis of what a customer insight is. A lot of people misunderstand what a customer insight is. They get it mixed up with data analytics. That's just what they do. They get it mixed up with observations, how they behave. They get it mixed up with asking them their customer's opinion. It goes a lot deeper. It's about understanding the underlying cause and motivations, needs and wants in a larger aspect of their life. And then the technology fits a component of that. We understand, we shape it, and then we're able to drive significantly more durable, penetrating experiences than any of our competitors on the market. And really at the heart of this, as Steve Jobs knew very well, it's around customer transformation. And you'll find that the best technology companies in the world understand customer transformation in so much detail. I'm sure many of you listening to this, you either work at one of these companies that we've spoken about, one of these global Fortune 100 tech companies, so you'll know this, or you have worked there and you'll understand how they do this. But essentially, customer transformation starts off with understanding the customer's current state, but then also understanding their desired state. And the first things first is that we want to understand the customer's current state, how they behave, how they respond, what are their pain points, and then not just what their pain points of the product are, but in terms of their lifestyle, their wants. There was a famous quote about when in the US when they were looking at transportation, and they would basically move from the buggy and the buggy whip over to the car. What the consumers wanted is to get to A to B much quicker. They didn't want a faster buggy. So a lot of the buggy builders were looking at, well, we need to get the horses to go faster. We need a faster buggy whip. But that missed the point. That missed the point of what did the customer actually really need to do and really need to achieve? What were the pain points associated with that? So in that current state, it's really understanding in a lot of depth. This is certainly from customer interviews, understanding what the customer's current state is. What are those deep pain points? What do they want to achieve? And then it's about understanding what the desired customer state is. What is it that they want to achieve? What is it that they want to be? What does great look like? What does success for them look like? So if you're thinking about a lot of technology buyers, a CIO or a CTO or a head of infrastructure who may be buying your products, yes, they're interested in a competitively priced, well-serviced solution, but there's multiple layers to that. They're also interested in their job careers. They want to look good in front of their peers. They want to showcase to the CEO and the rest of the executive team that they're driving success in the business, that they're making their companies more agile, that they're not an inhibitor to growth in their business or agility in their business. They're actually one of the executive team that are responsible for speeding those things up and helping the company to be successful in a significantly faster, more agile environment. So those are all needs that we need to understand beyond what product do they want, how do they want it serviced, what does a managed service wrapper look like. It needs to go far deeper than that. And that's when Steve Jobs spoke about really understanding, he said, about Apple and where they wanted to take the customer. He wanted to take the customer from their current state into that desired state. And he took a lot of time within his team to understand those two things, but he never ever asked a customer their opinion. Do you like this or do you like that? He never did that. It's more about understanding the underlying, and then you get the answer which is going to amaze customers, astound customers, be beyond what their expectations are. And that's what all good technology companies do. And what they're very good at doing is they agitate. They're very good at scratching those current customer states. Does your world look like this? Is your world full of these kind of pains? Is your technology slowing your company down from competing properly in the marketplace? Are you seen is your department seen as a bottleneck from allowing the company to be agile to allowing the company and the sales team for closing more customer business? So that's really the focus, about agitating those pain points right across all the different touch points, and then solving those in the hierarchy of what is the most amount of value to move on to the desired customer state. And then again, agitating those things to say, wouldn't it be better when your world looks like this? Then you're able to provide that agility to your company. You're able to stand up at the SLT, the Senior Leadership Team meeting, and showcase what you've done to basically accelerate company growth. That's the real transformation, the customer transformation, that journey. As Steve Jobs spoke about, where they wanted to take the customer. And that's basically what all great, truly great technology companies do very, very well. And within that, there's this thought process about force and power. When you don't understand the customer, you don't understand the customer insight. When you're taking technology and trying to fit it into a market, as Steve Jobs was saying, where you're trying to work out where to sell it, that's where the company needs to act from force. So you have to force yourself on the market. And that's basically the knock-on impact of forcing things onto a market, forcing messages, forcing your SDRs, your sales teams to go out and sell to prospects and force the message, is that you become a pest. You become a pest in the market. You become a Me Too product. You're undifferentiated. You're desperate. A lot of your competitors are doing similar things, and it's a spiral down to the bottom. It's a race to the bottom in terms of margins. Your customer acquisition costs are sky high. Your sales teams are really struggling. They're shouting at marketing for more leads. Marketing are having difficulty from getting those leads because they're forcing more and more on the market, but getting fewer and fewer leads because you've got an undifferentiated proposition, because it lacks the true customer insight. Conversely, the other world, which is completely refreshing, and it's the world that we went from BT Cellnet to O2, is to move from force to power, and putting power into your offer, power into your value proposition. And there's a step above a value proposition, and it's called a power offer. And I remember at O2, we were always drummed into us that look for the power offer, put power into the offer so marketing and sales don't have to row so much. And as soon as you do that, customer acquisition costs come down, retention rates go up, customer satisfaction goes up, the sales teams, it's a lot easier for them in order to win new business. Everything becomes so much easier. It's the majority of the battle. It's more than 50% of the success of a technology, of the long-term durable success of a tech company comes in about putting the power in the offer. And that can only come from having the right customer insight. When you've got the right customer insight, you know precisely what to put in that offer so that the messaging just resonates, it's penetrating with customers, and then you help them on their journey. You're guiding them through the right stages, and of course you're making lots of money at the same time, which is of course what you're going to want for your shareholders and investors. So why do tech companies need this? Why do they need to focus on that Steve Jobs customer-led growth strategy, focusing on insights, focusing on putting power in the offer rather than focusing on force? Well, simply put, if you're in the tech industry and you're not prioritizing customer and marketing insights, you're leaving a substantial amount of money on the table. The statistics make it abundantly clear a customer-centered growth strategy isn't optional, it's essential for long-term commercial success. Yes, there might be short-term blips, you might have 3 quarters of good growth, but then it soon wears out. So the question isn't whether you can afford to focus on customer experience, but rather can you afford not to? And this is typically your strategic planning process that you'll do in one form or another. So typically you'll start off with an audit. So you're looking internally, you're looking at your internal metrics against a scorecard, how you've been performing, your rates of churn, attrition, average order value, MRR, ARR, those kind of things. You're looking at those internal things, how your marketing is performing on getting leads and those conversion rates into the sales team. So that's what you'll do from an internal perspective. Then the next stage is the external perspective. That's where you're looking at the market, customers, competitors, and then you're looking at the responsiveness and your product market fit, how your product fits into the needs of customers, and that's the external part. And then you'll then take those things and you'll move them into strategy with your top team, and typically that will be working with a CEO on your North Star, and then you'll create your strategy around that, and then with your team you'll then create the action plan, and then you'll basically deploy. That's typically how it works. So what we do as Tech Growth Insights, we focus on the market research, that external view, and then help you essentially bring those outside elements into your firm. So really the key focus is, can you afford not to know your customer inside out? So why sticking to mere surface level analytics is costing you more than you realise. So by not really knowing the customer inside out, as Steve Jobs called it, you're navigating in the dark. Your competitors are likely relying solely on quantitative data. You're groping in the dark for actionable insights. You might have a sea of data, but you've got no real insights to base strategy on. And when you're both in the dark, you and your competitors, the race to the bottom is inevitable. It's also time versus ROI. If you're concerned about the time investment, consider the potential cost of not fully understanding your customer's buying journey. Months of flawed strategy can cost far more than deeply insightful turnkey research. There's also about strategic depth. So surface level data could lead you to tactical dead ends. And our comprehensive understanding of your customer's psyche can be the compass that navigates your business through the fog of uncertainty. It's also about untapped potential. So research uncovers what truly matters to your customers, allowing you to focus your resources with laser precision, and the result are strategies that resonate and bring about unparalleled customer loyalty and advocacy. And then there's also immediate actionability through one-to-one customer interviews and deep dive reporting. They're not theoretical exercises, but they yield actionable insights that you can use to interrogate your strategy straight away. So Satya Nadella, he spoke about innovating is about solving customer problems, not just having ideas. Just think about that. Our job and what we get paid for in technology, and that's why Microsoft is vying for Apple's mantle in terms of the company worth the most, is his statement as the leader of that company is innovating is about solving customer problems, not just having ideas. And that's really the ethos of Steve Jobs. So if you enjoyed that video, give me a like, give me a share, hit that notifications button also so you can get the next video. And if you are interested in any of the services that we provide at Tech Growth Insights, just go onto the main page. You'll see a link there, and then you can book a time. We can talk about your customers, where you want to take your customers, and then we can guide you and create a map on first understanding those customers, those insights around those, and then helping you on that guidance to ensure that your offer is an astounding success. So with that, thanks ever so much for listening, and I wish you a good rest of the day till the next time.